Now to our top story, and the world is mourning the loss of comedy icon Barry Humphries.
That's right. Nine Entertainment editor Richard Wilkins joins us now in the studio. Dickie, he put smiles on so many faces, but it is a sad day.
Well, it is. There's no getting around that. But we should be just eternally thankful to him for the joy that he brought to the world with his wry wit and his incisive comedy. I mean, he could say and do things that nobody else could possibly get away with. So yes, it is sad, and we learnt that he was back in hospital after these complications from his hip surgery. But you know, he always wanted to make people laugh. That was what drove Barry. Apparently in hospital he was still cracking people up. He said, "Now I've got this new hip, you can call me Bionic Bazza." So, and you know, that must have taken a lot of energy, I think, for him. But just to keep people entertained, he was at the core of it a showman, and we should be very thankful for all of that.
We are all so familiar with the characters that he played, but you knew him well. What was Barry himself really like?
He's a beautiful, gentle man. In some ways, he's the opposite of Edna, you know, who could be just brutal. And, you know, the people in the audience who she'd pick on, you go, "Oh my goodness, this is just not going to end well." But it didn't really come from a malicious place, but it was pretty hardcore stuff. But Barry himself, I remember we have a party at home every sort of Christmas time, a Boxing Day or something. And I remember going to Woolies and picking up some last-minute things once. And there was, "Richard, what are you doing here in the vegetable aisle?" I said, what are you doing?" He said, "Oh, we just flew in from London and we're picking up some things." And, I said, "What are you doing?" "Lizzie's off shopping." And so he was just sort of standing there mooching around. And I said, "Well, I'm having some people over. Why don't you come over?" He said, "I'd love to." And I said, "You know where the hell?" "Oh, I've forgotten." And he didn't know quite how to work his phone, but I called myself, called him, and he turned, I think he was the first to arrive, and then he spent the whole day meeting people at the front doors. "Hello, welcome, I'm Barry." And he was just eternally interested in other people. And at the end of it, he said, "I'm going to go now." I said, "Oh, good. Do you want me to get you a car?" He said, "No, I'm getting a lift with one of those people over there." He was that was Barry, you know. He was just there, and he made ordinary people feel special, and special people feel pretty ordinary sometimes.
Dickie, in a professional sense, you interviewed him countless times. I mean, you must hold those memories very, very close.
I was just going through some stuff on YouTube yesterday, and to be honest, I didn't realise some of the wonderful things that he actually said quite incisively. I must have interviewed him 20 or 30 times over the years. And I said to him once only, "Do you want to know what I'm going to ask you?" He said, "No." He said, I would have thought we'd give the tour a good mention, but other than that, let's just have some fun." This was one we did. We did a series of interviews for the Today Show, and we got a studio audience in, which was the smartest thing we did, because he just loved an audience. But let's have a little look at some for this interview with the great Barry Humphries.
I want to talk to you about how you do what you do. I mean, when you're getting into one of your characters, let's say Edna, when you're putting the makeup on and what happens? Is there a moment when you go from one to the other, a switch clicks, or how does it happen?
When I'm sitting at the dressing table,
okay,
and I'm transforming myself either into Les or Edna or Sandy or whatever I'm doing, there's the moment of, do I have to do this again? Why am I still doing this? Why can't I be having a swim or going or traveling or enjoying whatever else? Why must I be a slave to these people out there? You know, this theatre, uncomfortable, it's drafty, it's cold outside. I'm not feeling too well.
It's scary.
And it gets a bit scary. And then there's a point when instead of seeing myself in the mirror, I see someone else. You cross the invisible line, and I realize that I'm not having to do this anymore. I can go home. Edna's going to do the show.
When you're working, when you walk on stage sometimes, as Edna, let's say, you walk on stage in the outfit and the wig and the frock and the glasses and the whole thing, does Barry Humphries ever say to himself, "What the hell am I doing here?"
No. I feel a strong sense of responsibility to my public. These people are there because they enjoy my work and they need cheering up. There is nothing nicer these days than being in the cheering up business. It's the best industry to be in. It's the one with the most future, too, I would have thought.
Pretty amazing, isn't it?
Oh, that's, yeah.
Dickie, he famously said, never be afraid to laugh at yourself. You might be missing out on the joke of the century. It's so true, though, isn't
His
it?
quotes are the best, yeah, his quotes are... And he'd want me to give the tour a plug. That was a plug for his 2003 tour, Back to My Roots.
It'll be a sellout, no doubt, Dickie.
He'll be selling out upstairs there, that's for sure.
You sure will, Dickie. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
We'll
Dickie.
chat to you again soon. Welcome to a very special edition of Weekend Today as we bring you the news of Barry Humphries passing, aged 89. A much-loved Australian comedian, actor and entertainer, he brought us iconic characters of Dame Edna Everage and Sir Les Patterson.
Sadly, though, after complications from hip surgery, he died at a Sydney hospital surrounded by family. Richard Wilkins looks back at a magnificent life.
This is a send-off for several people, all at the same time. Farewell, Sir Les Patterson. Farewell, Sandy Stone. Farewell, Dame Edna Everage.
Hello, possums. Yes, it's me, Dame Edna, and aren't I looking gorgeous?
And farewell to their creator, Barry Humphries, whose fertile, mischievous mind gave us the slob, the sorrowful, and the housewife megastar. Humphries, a painter, a poet, a writer, and actor who loved dressing up in childhood, in red Indian kit, in a sailor suit, or in Chinese costume, and who continued dressing up all through his life.
Even the Venetian blinds seem to be smiling.
The most enigmatic character in his repertoire, however, was Barry himself.
It's easy to say that my mother is the chief inspiration for Dame Edna. And generally I go along with it just for a quiet life.
Born in Melbourne in 1934, he detested sports and mathematics, dodged school cadets, excelling, though, in literature and the arts, briefly studying law at university, moving into theatre and exploring street drama. One notorious stunt, we have no pictures, so just imagine it, was boarding a plane, secretly emptying a can of Heinz Russian salad into the sick bag, pretending to vomit, then, to the horror of the other passengers, eating the salad.
Wake me up when we get to Gay Paris.
No worries, Auntie.
London was calling, and Barry rapidly immersed himself in a series of West End productions, comedy programs, and a bawdy cartoon strip that ultimately led to a landmark Australian movie.
I'm going to London with you. Our family came from Britain many moons ago, you know.
Lucky they did. Immigration laws are a bloody sight tougher now.
Starring singer Barry Crocker, it portrayed a young Aussie abroad, escorted by his auntie, Edna Everage, and it made our highbrow critics cringe.
You're Barry Mackenzie.
My oath I am.
A vulgar portrayal of Australians it might have been, but it was a huge success at the box office.
I really needed that. I was as dry as a dead dingo.
There was a sequel, Barry Mackenzie Holds His Own, in which Edna was made a dame by Prime Minister Gough Whitlam. And so the legend grew and grew of Dame Edna, housewife superstar, housewife megastar, and ultimately housewife gigastar. Dazzling costumes and spectacles, stage shows in England and Australia, seasons on Broadway, where he won a Tony Award.
Oh, darling, a lovely little face too. Oh, I bet you were once an attractive woman.
There were television interview shows drawing a cross-section of stardom.
A big hand for Sean Connery!
There was the stunt entry by Charlton Heston. It seems Britain just couldn't get enough of our Dame Edna. She hosted the iconic final night of the proms.
I'm a bit of a sentimental old softy, I'm afraid. And I'm feeling some very strange, spooky little emotions now.
Nothing was sacred.
For those of you watching this by satellite, and could be little Eskimos or... Look, there's a little man with a little turban on. Hello, darling.
And she found a certain favour within the royal family.
They've found me a better seat.
And if it wasn't enough, there was more in the Barry Humphries closet than Dame Edna. There were the monologues of Sandy Stone.
Had a very nice night's rest.
Barry called him Australia's most boring man.
Really to see how much boredom an audience could take. It turned out they could take a lot of boredom.
For sheer lecherous vulgarity, it's hard to beat that roaming cultural attaché, Sir Les Patterson.
It's after 6:30 now, isn't it?
And you
This
still
fella's on a desert island with a pig.
No.
I mean, how did I get away with it?
What will Australia do without him? Or her? Richard Wilkins, 9 News.
What an incredible life and what a beautiful tribute, Dickie. It's such a massive loss.
It is. So we're all left with a feeling of deep sadness, but also we should be eternally grateful for what he brought, so much joy and entertainment to millions of people over such a long period of time. You know, he had this gift of satire. He would hold a mirror up to society, and we didn't always like what we saw in the reflection. But, you know, of course, a massive hit. He took Australia to the world, you know, and the Brits, he sort of reaffirmed all their worst fears about the vulgar Australians, you know, Sir Les and Dame Edna, but just so funny, so brave, and those characters could say stuff that maybe we all thought that no one else could get away with. I don't even think Sir Les probably could have got away with it back then, but he somehow did, and you know, we should be very thankful for what he brought to us over such a lovely and long time. Wonderful man.
Well, we'll be chatting to you throughout the morning to hear you have many pearls of wisdom on this, I'm sure. I look forward to it.
Thanks, Dickie. We have reporters standing by for us this morning. First to Erin Ramsey outside St Vincent's Hospital in Sydney. Erin, the family has released a statement.
Good morning, Clint. Yes, Barry's family confirming the sad news that he has passed away at the age of 89. He was being treated here at St Vincent's Private Hospital over the past few days after he was admitted after complications from hip surgery that he underwent earlier this year. Now, we have heard from those closest to him over the past few days while he has been here. They say he's been in good spirits, he's had that wicked humour, and he always stayed very positive despite his health issues. He was looking forward to touring later on in the year, but some beautiful words were posted last night by Barry's family. They say he was completely himself until the very end, never losing his brilliant mind, his unique wit and generosity of spirit. The characters he created, which brought laughter to millions, will live on. Now, tributes are flowing. We've also heard from Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, who posted on Twitter a beautiful photo of Barry as the wonderful Dame Edna, of course, saying the brightest star in that galaxy was always Barry. He was both a gifted and a gift. I mean, Barry is survived by his beautiful wife, Lizzie, his 4 children and 10 grandchildren. Of course, Clint, he will be remembered by all of us as an Australian icon.
Absolutely spot on. Thanks, Erin.
Well, let's go to Melbourne now, and Nine reporter Elizabeth Moss. Lizzie, Melbourne was where Barry was born and raised.
Absolutely, Jane. And there are so many beautiful nods to the colourful characters of Barry Humphries all across our city. I mean, we're talking about the dame that put the suburb of Moonee Ponds on the map. So this is no small feat. Of course, Barry Humphries, as Dame Edna, was awarded the keys to Melbourne City back in 2006. He was born and raised out in Kew, then went to Melbourne Grammar, went to Melbourne University actually to study law, philosophy and fine arts. An interesting mix. Safe to say that didn't last too long, and he quickly moved into comedy. It was at the Melbourne Theatre Company that really that first iteration of who we came to know and love as Dame Edna was born. We now even have a Dame Edna Lane in Melbourne tucked away, and as I said, many different points to remember him across the city. Here at the Arts Centre, we have part of that lovely collection of all those amazing costumes and characters. Dame Edna's very envious handbag and shoe collection actually lives here. No doubt a lot of people wanting to look through some of those things and remember some of those amazing skits and beautiful memories over the years. This morning, no doubt discussions as to how we as a city can best honour Barry Humphries and the fantastic characters he brought us.
Absolutely, Lizzie, thank you.
Hey there, Today fans, Sarah and...
What's my name again?
Oh my God, Carl.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel, though. Subscribe now for more news, special reports and amazing Aussie stories.
And Carl misbehaving,
Whoa,
of course.
That never happens.
Always happens.
What's she talking about?